Alonso reveals his next career move after a strong race. Max Verstappen and Red Bull continue to make F1 boring. Just joking. Max Verstappen of Red Bull Racing dismissed any doubts surrounding his team's race pace as he secured a commanding victory at the Japanese Grand Prix, finishing ahead of his teammate Sergio Perez in yet another Red Bull 1-2 finish. However, the afternoon proved to be a nightmare for one driver affiliated with the Red Bull family, as Daniel Ricciardo caused a red flag stoppage after colliding with Alex Albon on the opening lap. The drivers lined up on the grid with Verstappen starting on pole position, but with some uncertainty around tire wear and degradation given the increased track temperature of up to 44 degrees, which was significantly hotter than earlier in the weekend. Only Fernando Alonso in P5 started on soft tires, with everyone else on the mediums, except for Nico Hülkenberg in P12, Kevin Magnussen, and Zhou Guanyu, who were also on mediums. Verstappen got off to a blistering start, heading into Turn 1 unchallenged, putting a considerable gap between himself and Perez, while Lando Norris held on to third place ahead of Carlos Sainz and Alonso. However, the race was halted on lap 1 when Albon and Ricciardo collided heavily at Turn 2, causing Albon to hit the tire barrier and Ricciardo to take out several advertising boards. The race resumed after a 30-minute repair job on the barriers with a standing start, and Mercedes opted to put Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, who were in 7th and 9th place respectively, on hard tires. Pierre Gasly, Lance Stroll, and Logan Sargent also switched to hard tires. Verstappen got off to another excellent start with Perez in 2nd place and Norris in 3rd. Alonso pushed past Sainz for 4th place, followed by Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc, who passed Hamilton. Yuki Tsunoda moved up to 9th place after overtaking Russell, while Esteban Ocon reported potential damage after a hit. Russell later reclaimed 9th place from Tsunoda. During the race, Sergio Perez was in pursuit of Max Verstappen for the lead, and he had a turbulent ride over the curbs under the bridge, which could have potentially caused damage to his car's floor. Meanwhile, Valtteri Bottas had a pit stop that lasted 8 seconds, and Nico Hülkenberg also pitted early in the race. Yuki Tsunoda, who was out of the points, also pitted on lap 8 and fell to 16th place. As the race progressed, Verstappen started to pull away from Perez, although he was experiencing some issues with his RB20 car, moving from oversteer to understeer. Perez, in turn, was losing ground to Lando Norris, who was being pursued by Carlos Sainz. On lap 12, Norris opted for a pit stop, while Ferrari decided to leave Sainz out. A lap later, Oscar Piastri made his pit stop, which allowed Charles Leclerc to take over. Unfortunately, Zhou, who had pitted for the 3rd time, had to retire his car from the race. During the race, there were several key moments that shaped the outcome. As the drivers jostled for position, Russell was chasing Hamilton, who offered to move over for his teammate. Russell was told that Hamilton was struggling with a lot of understeer and would let him by. Russell quickly capitalized on this opportunity and put 2 seconds between himself and Hamilton. On lap 16, Perez and Sainz pitted from 2nd and 3rd position, respectively, while Verstappen continued to lead the race. However, both drivers came out behind Norris, who had made significant progress. Verstappen pitted on the next lap, handing the lead to Leclerc. He came out in 3rd position behind Russell, but that didn't last long. Meanwhile, Norris overtook the yet-to-pit Hamilton to run in 4th position and then overtook Russell to move up to 3rd. Perez pulled off an audacious move on Hamilton through 130R and then repeated this performance on Russell. It was then Sainz's turn to pass both Mercedes teammates. Hamilton urged Mercedes to change the strategy, as Alonso also blitzed by. Verstappen was back up in 1st position on lap 21, swooping past Leclerc at turn 1 to take the lead once again. Russell pitted on lap 23, swapping hard tires for hard tires with Magnussen. Down to Stroll, all drivers pitted on the same lap as they fought for the final point in the race. Tsunoda led that tussle as Hülkenberg had yet to make his 2nd stop. Hamilton came in on lap 24, rejoining the action in 9th place behind Russell. Chased down by Perez, Leclerc, who had yet to pit, ran wide to allow the Red Bull driver through. Norris was right on his rear wing and was told to box, but asked why so early. Leclerc came out ahead of Norris, both on hard tires, with Russell sandwiched between the two. All 3 were on hard tires and expected to run to the end. Perez and Alonso pitted for the 2nd time in the race on lap 34, with Piastri also stopping. Bottas complained about Magnussen weaving on the straight, and Stroll was investigated but cleared over a possible pit lane infringement. Verstappen pitted from the lead, putting Sainz into first position ahead of Verstappen, Leclerc, and Perez, but Perez managed to overtake Leclerc for fourth position. On lap 37, Sainz made a pit stop while Verstappen took the lead in a Red Bull 1-2, with the Spanish driver coming out in P7 on fresh hard tires. Despite falling behind Hamilton initially, Sainz quickly overtook him to secure P5. Meanwhile, Russell made a pit stop, and Hamilton encountered a small issue with his front right tire, costing him a second in lap time. The second degner saw Logan Sargent lose control, prompting the introduction of yellows. He was able to return to the track, however, and headed into the pits for fresh tires. As the race progressed, Verstappen maintained his lead, followed by Perez, Leclerc, and Norris. Sainz, with fresh tires, was on the charge, overtaking Norris and then hunting down his teammate. Despite no team orders at Ferrari, Sainz eventually passed Leclerc on lap 47, with DRS and fresher tires making it easy for him. Russell, also on fresher tires, chased down the Piastri-Alonso battle, with a bit of argy-bargy seeing Piastri forced off the track. However, he managed to stay ahead of the Mercedes driver. In a tale of threes, Verstappen secured his third win of the season, followed by Perez in what was Red Bull's third 1-2 of the championship. Sainz, for the third time, secured a podium finish in third place. Leclerc finished fourth, followed by Norris and Alonso, with Russell's last lap pass on Piastri giving him seventh place. Piastri finished in eighth, followed by Hamilton in P9. Finally, Ricciardo had a tough day while Tsunoda added to his points haul, finishing in 10th place to the delight of the Japanese fans. After finishing P6 in the Japanese Grand Prix, Fernando Alonso was brimming with joy and explained why he rates his performance amongst his best ever in Formula One. Alonso's association with Aston Martin started on a high note with frequent podium finishes at the beginning of the previous season, but such results have dried up since then. Nevertheless, his P6 finish at Suzuka was a remarkable feat for the two-time world champion, especially considering the pressure he faced from McLaren's Oscar Piastri and Mercedes' George Russell in the closing stages of the race. Despite the fact that McLaren and Mercedes have faster cars than the Aston Martin AMR24, Alonso was able to hold off the challengers and clinch P6, which he called completely unrealistic. From P5 on the starting grid, he believes that this race was one of his best performances yet, which he described as very complete, very strong, and very solid, from the free practice sessions to the race itself. Although Alonso is aware that this race may not receive much attention, he felt that he was connected with the car and that his performance was a top 5 career highlight. He acknowledged that Red Bull and Ferrari are in a different league at the moment, but he believes that McLaren and Mercedes are still faster than his team. Mercedes experimented with their car and tires, and they had a bold strategy. But Alonso was able to capitalize on it and gain a position. Overall, Fernando Alonso's P6 finish at Suzuka was a remarkable feat, and he considers it one of his best performances yet. Despite the lack of attention that this race may receive, Alonso was pleased with his performance and his connection with the car, which allowed him to outperform expectations and achieve a completely unrealistic result. Fernando Alonso, the Spanish racing driver, is being hailed as a potential major player in the F1 2025 driver market. His current deal with Aston Martin is set to expire at the end of the season, and he has stated that he would use the opening rounds of the season to decide whether he wants to continue racing in F1, and if so, where he would like to do that. After finishing 44 seconds behind the race winner Max Verstappen at Suzuka, Alonso admitted that while it is important to enjoy his racing like he did there, the result was not particularly attractive. When asked if a race like that can help him decide on his F1 future, Alonso said, "It goes either way. I had a lot of fun, which is great to keep on racing. I had one of my best weekends ever, I think, driving, and I'm 44 seconds behind the leader. It doesn't feel attractive at the same time, so let's see." Alonso currently sits at P8 in the Drivers' Championship, and he will be heading to China for the next round of races. He has twice claimed victory before around the Shanghai International Circuit, and this will be an opportunity for him to prove his worth once again.